Hello, I'm Natasha Hussein, and this is Newsfeed, your dose of what people are talking about online. Although sometimes what you talk about online never gets seen or heard by your followers, this is called shadowbanning. Meta, in particular, is one of the main offenders. Unbeknownst to its users, it regularly censors posts on Instagram and Facebook. If you've ever voiced your support for Palestine online, chances are you've been shadowbanned. Sari tells us why.
The neutrality of social media platforms has always been subjected to scrutiny, and in times of conflict, such criticisms are amplified. A site's way of moderating content or not can help shape the narrative for wider audiences. The ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas is no exception. Online users have been accusing platforms of silencing them and limiting their reach.
Instagram is literally trying to censor any outcry from people towards or on behalf of Palestine. So as someone who usually has about 200 to 300 views on my Instagram stories, I literally posted this over 15 hours ago and it still only is at 5 views. 5 views.
Meta's platforms in particular are criticized heavily for using algorithms to bury posts related to Palestine. Users argue that any content, including words like Gaza or emojis like the Palestinian flag, are filtered from the feed. Even Meta's oversight board said the company's reliance on automated tools to moderate content increased the likelihood of removing posts that didn't violate any rules. While Meta believes they're handling the situation fairly based on their guidelines, many activists are still trying to subvert the algorithms with screenshots for reposts and intentional typos, highlighting the resilience of digital activism.
But using algos speak to bypass content moderation isn't enough to stop the systemic censorship of Palestine content online. A 51-page Human Rights Watch report outlines just how Meta has been silencing Palestinian voices for years. The rights group attributes the censorship to Meta's flawed content moderation policies, which has led to posts being erroneously removed. The silencing of Palestinian voices on platforms like Facebook and Instagram has also been blamed on an over-reliance on automated moderation tools in policing content, and undue government influence, meaning Meta had an overwhelmingly high rate of approving takedown requests from governments, including Israel's. Rasha Yunus was one of the co-authors of that Human Rights Watch report. She told us that for years now, Meta has consistently ignored calls from the rights group to fix its flawed content moderation, and that its censorship of pro-Palestinian voices only got worse after October 7th.
The censorship that we documented over the months from October until December 2023 has demonstrated that accounts of censorship that Meta is practicing against pro-Palestine content is systemic and global. And that means that we documented cases that emanated from over 60 countries from around the world with very congruent methods of silencing. And the content was primarily in English, in addition to other languages such as Arabic, Danish, German, etc. But in every case, we saw consistent patterns of censorship that cannot be blamed on a bug or an error that is unnoticed or can go without examining. And Meta's content moderation policies and systems have increasingly silenced voices in support of Palestine and Palestinian human rights on Instagram and Facebook since October 7th.
Which begs the question, why is Meta doing this?
We documented primarily 4 systemic issues that indicate in hundreds of cases that Meta invoked the Dangerous Organizations and Individuals policy, which in itself fully incorporates the United States designated list of terrorist organizations, which includes groups like Hamas. And any post that was posted on Instagram or Facebook that documents the release of hostages or mentions Hamas even in passing, not in terms of praise or support, the mere presence of the word Hamas is enough to get a post removed. There are other systemic barriers to content remaining online that is peaceful and in support of Palestine, including voluntary requests from the cybercrime unit in Israel and other governments to remove content in support of Palestine and Palestinian human rights that Meta has a very high response rate to and approval rate for. Meta has promised over and over again that it will rectify this censorship, which we witnessed more heightenedly as well in 2021 in the Sheikh Jarrah, the evictions and displacement of Palestinians. So this is only a repeated pattern, and that's why we call the report Meta's Broken Promises, because not only is this a continuous issue, but it really is a result of flawed and systemic issues that result in the misapplication and the disproportionate application of already flawed policies.
With these flawed policies, is pro-Israel content also being shadow banned to the same degree as Palestinian content?
So the report that we published and the cases that we documented did not focus on content that remained online, but rather content that was censored and erroneously removed. However, we did document dozens and hundreds of cases where individuals who commented peacefully in support of Palestine had their comment removed, while at the same time, pro-Israel content on that same post, such as "Make Gaza a parking lot," or "We wish Israel the best in its mission to wipe Palestine off the face of the earth." That kind of egregious content remained online on the same posts where a Palestinian flag emoji would be erroneously removed because it is quote unquote spam.
Those egregious double standards online are something digital communications expert Mona Shtaya has experienced firsthand. Mona is based in the occupied West Bank. She recently told Newsfeed that the discriminatory restrictions Palestinians face daily are mirrored in the online world.
Social media platforms didn't show any interest in protecting Palestinian voices since the beginning of the ongoing events in Palestine. And even before that, it has been documented that there is discrimination or discriminatory policies against Palestinians and or Palestine-related content on social media platforms, more particularly on Meta's platforms. We can see and witness that there is a lot of incitement, hate speech, and violent speech still going on its platforms against Palestinians. The shadow banning is one of many digital rights violations on those platforms that Palestinians are and their allies are exposed to, and it's substantially contributing to silence Palestinian voices and to only have one narrative or mono-narrative on the platforms, which is the Israeli narrative that is normalizing anti-Palestinian racism globally.
I understand that your own social media accounts were shadow banned too. When did you realize you were being censored?
Yeah, that's true. Unfortunately, I've realized that I have been shadow banned exactly when I was publishing, like different times when I was publishing either analysis pieces or just like Instagram content informing people about the discriminatory policies that Palestinians are facing on Meta's platforms, including Instagram. And how also those platforms are substantially contributing to normalize anti-Palestinian racism. All of those times, I was observing my insights, my account insights, to find that the reachability of this kind of content is not really a natural one and doesn't match the previous posts. And very recently, we've seen how Instagram, they have the new update on their policy around the prioritizing or the deprioritizing of the political content, where so many activists were also calling to change the settings to see more political content. Such kind of measures and such kind of policy changes in this sensitive time is definitely alarming and is definitely contributing to increase or to deprioritize the Palestinian content, and under the claim of those like substantial policy changes for the platform itself in general. And it is contributing to to create a more depoliticized generation and a generation who's not aware what's going on in the daily life for people around the world.
Mona Shtaya mentioned the term mono-narrative earlier in describing how Israel skews coverage in its favor globally. And one way Tel Aviv continues to shape its narrative is through its education system. Lara explains how the dehumanizing language against Palestinians actually starts at school.
The overt, dehumanizing, genocidal rhetoric by Israeli governmental and military officials.
Amidst serious allegations, a disturbing reality persists.
Israelis making fun of airstrikes.
Israelis have been conditioned to dehumanize Palestinians, and it all starts in their education system. Israeli textbooks depict Palestinians as caricatures, primitive farmers, hordes of refugees, or terrorists.
You cannot find one photograph of a human being who is a Palestinian. And the only way they are represented are as the problems and threats. They never or hardly ever meet Palestinians face to face or speak to them.
The result?
You said you think they should be bombed?
Yeah.
Kids being bombed in Gaza, is that okay?
Yeah, we need to kill Arabs.
We your babies here.
Google a map of Israel in Hebrew, and you'll likely see a distorted reality. No clear marking of the occupied territories. This skewed narrative, also present in Israeli textbooks, fuels illegal settlers claiming divine rights over Palestinian land.
It's all this. What you say? It's belong to Israel.
You are stealing my house.
And if I don't steal it, someone else is going to steal it.
No! You have this necklace?
That's right. Palestine, yeah.
This is Israel.
This is Palestine.
Israel.
Israelis learn about the Holocaust from nursery school to the 12th grade. A part of that learning is looking at horrifying images or exercises that encourage students to identify themselves with the victims. It is an intentional policy by the Israeli Ministry of Education.
The goal is traumatization and revenge, and not to let the fire of vengeance die out. However, this vengeance is not directed towards the German persecutors and their collaborators in Europe, but towards Palestinian colonized subjects who are Nazified.
Why all this? Well, Israel clings to its identity as a Jewish state, and it does so by displacing, imprisoning, and murdering Palestinians routinely to manage demographics. And the only way to get its people to participate is by convincing them that it is the only way for them to exist safely. In Israel's warped reality, seeing Palestinians as people seeking peace and freedom doesn't align.
An eye-opening report there from Lara. And that's our show. Find our latest stuff and interviews on YouTube, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. See you soon.